There were co-star dating rumors, cheating allegations, a trailer that looked like a thriller, Glenn Powell's much-awaited return to the genre. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel, where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. So today I'm going to be covering a new movie that is in theaters called Anyone But You. It is a big studio rom-com, which these days is a huge accomplishment to get into theaters. I'd been anticipating this movie all throughout 2023. It had its ups and downs in the marketing of it all. So as soon as it came out, I made sure to go see it, and I wanted to give my general review and let you know if it's even worth watching, because spending money at the theater is not cheap these days. So let's just dive into Anyone But You and start off with my usual question: is it worth watching? I think this is the biggest question when I cover a theatrical release, because I feel like the stakes are higher if you're paying, $20, $25 for the whole theater experience. I assume this movie will come to streaming, so if you're one of those people that likes to wait, I think that's okay. But to answer the question, I do think Anyone But You is worth watching. And I have just one piece of information that will help you decide if it's worth watching for you or not. This is something that was not included in the marketing at all, and only a few people have talked about online. This rom-com is based on Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. The movie is very modern, set in the real world and all of that, but the general conflict and plotline is based on one of these classics. And I feel like anyone who is a rom-com fan knows that the rom-com adaptations of classic literature kind of slap the hardest in the genre, and kind of guarantees the plot's going to be pretty decent. And for me, that was the deciding factor. It generally takes like a special movie for me to get off my couch and into the comfortable couches at the movie theater. But when I heard that it was just Much Ado About Nothing but modern, I was all in. One of my favorite teen movies is 10 Things I Hate About You. That's Taming of the Shrew. She's the Man. That's 12th Night. She's All That and Pretty Woman. Those are Pygmalion, which that's not Shakespeare, but it's another classic kind of story. So I feel like if you didn't know that fact, you might be more interested now if you are a fan of the rom-com. If that piece of information doesn't excite you, then maybe this movie's not worth watching. Maybe rom-coms are not so much your thing. But as far as rom-coms go, I think Anyone But You was pretty entertaining. It did its job. The comedy was actually really, really good. And I was surprised by that, because comedy has been so skewed in recent years. I feel like in TV, the most dramatic ass shows are labeled as comedies, like The Bear. Like, tell me what is comedy about The Bear? And then shows that people laugh at a lot, like Succession, for example, are, winning every category in the drama section. Everything just feels really upside down, and I feel like comedy is in an identity crisis right now in media. It can be very hard to hit the right comedic tone with something modern and something so commercial like Anyone But You. But honestly, they did a really good job with the comedy. It's a really nice balance too, where it's not too raunchy. Raunchy comedies in the style of The Hangover. I feel like The Hangover altered cinema forever when that came out, because it kind of led to this raunchy comedy obsession, and the predominant mainstream comedies were that type of just outrageous raunchy. Anyone But You is not that style of raunchy comedy. It's a little more wholesome, but it's not too sanitized either. It's a really nice balance of adult humor, but not just super outrageous. The comedy's kind of grounded in Anyone But You, or at least it feels more relatable and possible. There is still some really outlandish situations in Anyone But You, but I don't know, something about it is just a tad more grounded than like the super raunchy comedies of the 2010s that were just meant to like shock you at all times. And something unique about Anyone But You is that it is rated R. It's kind of rare for rom-coms to be rated R. Most of the time they're in the PG-13 range. I was kind of like not sure what to expect with that rating. I kind of thought it's possible it will go in that super raunchy Hangover direction, or there's just going to be a lot of graphic sex scenes. But in the end, it was mostly that they threw some fucks around and had a little bit of a graphic-ish sex scene, but it was pretty tame for a rated R movie. I feel like without people saying fuck throughout the movie, it was still PG-13, to be honest. Okay, there was like a tip situation without getting too graphic that was really surprising, but it was kind of funny. I kind of like they didn't exploit female nudity so much in this too, because I feel like when there is nudity in movies, the woman is the one getting exploited like that, and the men never get that. And this movie was significantly balanced in that regard. All in all, it's worth watching if you are missing the rom-com genre and like the classics. I think this one fits in well. I think it has its issues as well. It wasn't like perfect to me by any means, but it was pretty decent, and it was entertaining and funny, which the point of a rom-com is not to like be the most perfectly deep piece of media. It's great when it is, and you know, it hits you in the feels. Like something like 13 Going on 30, one of my favorite movies ever, just hits you in the feels, even though it's like funny and charming and all the things. But this one did the job of entertaining you the entire time. There's beautiful people in it, beautiful locations, really funny situations going on, a lot of fun characters. It delivered on everything you want out of a rom-com. I was hee-hee-ha-haing in the theater, and it's hard to like laugh out loud at anything because we have like TikTok on our phones, and that's like the funniest place on earth. Oh, and if you're curious, the Rotten Tomatoes score is a 52%, so it's technically fresh by 2%, and that's pretty high for a rom-com. I feel like I agree with the Rotten Tomatoes score. I think to calibrate for it being a rom-com and trying to be lighthearted and commercial, I would bump it up to like a 65-70% Rotten Tomatoes score, to be honest. Let's talk a little bit about the movie, the background, who's in it, who made it. So according to my research, once Anyone But You gets on streaming, it will likely stream on Netflix because the distributor, Sony Pictures, has a deal with Netflix, and usually their movies go to Netflix after theaters. So just something to look out for if you are someone who likes to wait for things to go on streaming. Anyone But You, like I said, it had gotten a lot of buzz because I think in the rom-com fandom community, if it exists, I mean it does exist, I am in it, but anytime there's like a new big budget rom-com announced, we're just like so starved of content that we are automatically excited. This movie was announced around January last year, 2023, and throughout filming we saw some photos of Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, who star in the movie, and then kind of a little around that time there were photos of them being like really flirty, or like videos of them being really flirty, and there were rumors on Dumois that they were both cheating on each other's partners. I think the rumor ended up that like Glenn Powell left his partner or wife or whatever for Sydney Sweeney, but Sydney Sweeney ended up backing out and not leaving her partner and staying with him. I don't think anything came of it in the end. To this day in the press tour, they have denied any romance rumors. But that got the rom-com community hyped because, you know, when, you know, the co-stars have cheating allegations, the movie's gonna be good. Unfortunately, all our hopes came crashing down when we saw the trailer, and it was kind of edited like a thriller, and you didn't really get any idea of what the plot was about. They don't mention anything about it being related to Shakespeare, nothing. So the trailer was just really confusing. It felt really, really generic. They even redid the trailer with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell trying to introduce the trailer, and then Emma Stone parodied it with Nathan Fielder and their show The Curse, and it was kind of funny that was just an extra thing that came out of it. But anyway, the second trailer was better in that the tone felt more rom-com-ish, but there was still the issue of like, it felt very enemies to lovers. That was clear from the trailer, but there was no explanation for why the main characters hated each other. It felt just so cliche, like, I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend and my date for this wedding to impress my ex. How many movies do you know that have that plot line? I feel like even a lot of Hallmarky, like TV movies have that type of plot line. It's a tried and true. From that trailer, I was just like, what is special about this movie? Once I learned that it was Much Ado About Nothing, which is Shakespeare, and that's a play about like misunderstandings and people keep overhearing things all the time and then misunderstanding, and that causes the whole conflict. But as the title suggests, it is Much Ado About Nothing. It just makes more sense why in the trailer there was no reason for Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell to hate each other. That was just kind of this missing puzzle piece for me of like, oh, it's Much Ado About Nothing, so there's no reason why they hate each other. It just kind of is, and it's misunderstanding related. I think the movie was very much riding on the star power of the main characters. I mean, Glenn Powell isn't a household name by any means. He's not super known, but I feel like his star is on the rise. To the rom-com people, they are kind of aware of Glenn Powell because he was in Set It Up, which is one of the few kind of favorite rom-coms of like the later 2010s. It was a Netflix original with Zoe Deutsch and I think Lucy Liu is in it. It was a really cute one. I don't think that one's groundbreaking or anything, but it was fun, and Glenn Powell shone as like a rom-com leading man. Like they had really good chemistry, and he delivered in Anyone But You. Very similar vibes. And then Sydney Sweeney is a name that is more known because she has been in so many projects. I mean, Euphoria, White Lotus. She's in that new Madam Web movie, but she like plays a nerd, which I'm like, in what world is this girl a nerd? But okay. I've been a fan of Sydney Sweeney since her very first project, which was this like show called Everything Sucks on Netflix that never got a second season, but was really cute, and literally no one heard about it or watched it. She's like baby in it. She's really young. For Sydney Sweeney, I wasn't sure because I'm so used to her playing a teen, and she's just so great at playing like the sassy attitude girl. That's like her specialty. I wish she would kind of like stick to antagonist characters. I mean, her work as Cassie on Euphoria alone is like so good, and I think she's mostly an antagonist character in that show. It's still cool to see her try a rom-com, try a protagonist role. I think she's gorgeous. I wasn't like the biggest fan of her performance in this movie. It was very like hit or miss for me. It did hit sometimes, but then other times, I don't know, something about her line delivery is very wooden. I think maybe it's just like her strength as an actress is more darkness, more antagonistic, more drama, compared to this that's a little more like relatable girl. It's kind of hard to make Sydney Sweeney relatable because she's so beautiful, but Meg Ryan was beautiful too, and something about Meg Ryan had this relatable charm to her, no matter how perfect her hair was in every scene. I'm not sure what it was for Sydney Sweeney. Maybe I still see her as a little bit of a teen because she does present young. Also, I was excited. Ultimately, I found out that Paxton Hall Yoshida is in this movie. Love him. Also, that one girl from Barbie. And then that one girl from that one tween movie, Moxie, that Amy Poehler produced on Netflix. Oh, also this one guy that was in rom-coms back in the day. Now he's playing the dad. I love it when they do that. Kind of a nod to the genre. Sorry, I don't know his name either. The director of the movie I find interesting. He is Will Gluck, and he directed Easy A and Friends with Benefits. Two very successful, lighthearted rom-com-ish movies. Friends with Benefits, I'm not such a fan of. I know it's kind of a polarizing movie. People love that movie, and then some people hate it. I'm on the hate side of the situation, but I think it was just so weird that it came out alongside No Strings Attached. It was just like, wait, what? Why is the same movie coming out twice in the same month or whatever? But anyway, so Will Gluck directed Anyone But You, and I did see that playfulness that is reminiscent of Easy A. Like, once I found it out after that it was the same director, but I love Easy A. It's one of my favorites of the teen movies. Honestly, I want to say it was the last great teen movie. After that, things got different. And there's good teen movies. Like, I think Booksmart after that was good. I think just something happened when social media became totally ubiquitous that, like, our attention became so diversified. But I guess after that we got Pitch Perfect. I don't know. I'm just thinking over here, thinking too hard. So Easy A is a great movie because it's really silly and it knows its references. It's kind of self-aware about its silliness. Just so silly, but so earnest and so good. Once I learned it was the same director as Anyone But You, I realized, like, Anyone But You had that self-awareness to not take itself too serious. And I think for a rom-com to be successful, that is an important element. You can't be so serious about it all because it's not. It's goofy and silly, and it's meant to make you laugh. So when people think about it too hard, or nowadays I think dramedies are more popular, which have their own place totally, but for a movie like this, you want it to not take itself so serious. And Anyone But You, I commend that it did that. It had lots of funny, like, embarrassing situations. They didn't shy away from that too much. It had jokes. And the thing that reminded me a lot of Easy A, and even in the theater reminded me of Easy A, not knowing it was the same director, was that the song Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield becomes an important plot point in the movie. And it reminded me so much of the iconic part in Easy A with Pocket Full of Sunshine, which is also Natasha Bedingfield? It's funny how both movies have the same director, and a Natasha Bedingfield song becomes really important, and it's like this really fun throwback that the audience, I think, really enjoys because we grew up with those songs, and they're integrated in really funny ways in both movies. So that's a kind of cute signature for this director. That's such a random thing to be a signature, but he should make it a thing. Every one of his movies include a Natasha Bedingfield song. I request it. Will Gluck, do it. Okay, I'll give you all a plot summary. Fine. This is your spoiler alert. I'll do a summary and then talk about sort of the pros and cons I found throughout the movie. Glenn Powell plays Ben, who works in finance, and Sydney Sweeney plays B, who is a law student at Boston University. They meet in this encounter at a coffee shop where she's trying to get a bathroom pass, but there's a long line, so he helps her out by pretending to be her boyfriend in that moment so that she can get the bathroom key with his purchase. This is the very first scene of the movie, the meet cute right out the gate. She goes to the bathroom, she has a little faux pas that's funny, a lot of physical comedy of her, like, trying to dry her pants. Honestly, the opening scene was so strong in this movie, and it set it up for, like, great takeoff, you know? They end up spending the day together. They get to know each other a lot. They sleep together, and then the morning after, B runs away before he wakes up. She kind of regrets it because they have a great connection, so she comes back to the apartment, but by the time she comes back, she overhears Ben talking to his roommate saying, oh, that wasn't serious, like, I didn't even like her, whatever. So she overhears that and feels like, oh, this guy is a douche, he's a fuckboy, and she leaves. So basically, they both think bad things about each other because he thinks she leaves her hookups and she thinks he shit talks his hookups. And so they don't see each other again until later they find out that his roommate's sister and her sister are engaged. Basically, they both have to attend the wedding of women in their lives. Of course, they all stay at the same wedding mansion as they do in these movies. There's a lot of, like, wedding prep stuff, rehearsal dinners. The family and friends are trying to get them together so that they don't ruin the wedding with their fighting, because Bee and Ben are always fighting with each other and bickering. The airplane scenes on their way to Sydney. So it's a destination wedding in Sydney. I forgot to mention that. Australia. The scenery is gorgeous. And there's an airplane scene that's really funny. She walks by him in first class and steals his cookie. And it's really physical again. Sydney Sweeney, as much as I didn't like her line delivery in some parts, she nailed the physical comedy parts. And there were a few places she got to like play with that a lot in this movie, and I enjoyed it. She did good on that part. So yeah, once they're at the wedding, the family and friends are trying to get them together. They keep trying to like fake conversations within earshot and say, you know, she likes him, he likes her, so that they overhear and they will make a move, and they'll both make a move and get together. I don't know. It's all very planted, and Bee and Ben don't really fall for it, but Bee's parents, who are there too, fly in her ex-fiance, which is Paxton Hall Yoshida from Never Have I Ever. They fly him in, and they keep trying to get them back together because they love her ex-fiance. And so she's annoyed by this. Ben has his ex-girlfriend there too, and he's trying to like get her back, but she's with somebody else. So Bee proposes to him like, well, let's just pretend to be together. It'll make your ex jealous. It'll get my parents to stop trying to fix me up with my ex. So that is the reason that they are pretending to be together. So throughout the movie, they are pretending to be together. They have some funny scenes where they try to grab each other's butts, and then there's a spider, which in real life, the spider bit Sydney Sweeney, like actually. And there's a take where she screams and it's like, it actually bit me. But like, props to her, because like the acting in the movie looked the same as her in real life freaking out. So there was no difference between her freaking out for real and freaking out acting. That's so scary. And the worst part of it all is that like in that scene, the spider fully looks CGI. If I didn't know about the spider biting Sydney Sweeney, I'd be like, that's a CGI spider. Why is that a thing sometimes now? Like in shows or movies, like sometimes there will be like a real thing, but for some reason to me it looks CGI now. I don't know how CGI has warped my brain, but it definitely has. I remember in The Last of Us, there's a giraffe scene, and I thought the giraffes were CGI, obviously, and then you see behind the scenes, and it's like Bella Ramsey's there petting the actual giraffe. Kind of weird. But anyway, so they are trying to, like, get their family and friends to think they're together by hugging, and then that's where she, like, finds a spider in his pants, and then they freak out about it. That's the spider scene. A lot of their attempts, like the spider one, go awry. The people are just not paying attention to them. Until there's like this rehearsal dinner or something on a boat, and B is like, let's do the Titanic scene. And then everyone sees them do the Titanic scene in front of the boat. And then everyone's convinced they're actually together. But then B falls overboard, and Ben goes to save her, and they end up kind of stuck at sea until a rescue helicopter comes, and that's where they like get vulnerable, and it seems like they start actually falling in love, and then they get rescued by the helicopter. They sing Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield because that's his calming song or whatever, and so they're kind of starting to fall in love. And of course this is when his ex starts being interested in him again, and they end up kissing at the wedding reception. There are more misunderstandings because she was holding on to this secret. If you know, you know. In screenwriting, you should try your best to make your character have a secret. It's the easiest way to create conflict. B has a secret, and that is that she has dropped out of law school. She does not want her parents to find out, but when they're stranded in the ocean, she like tells Ben this information, and he tells his roommate, and it just gets spread. B loses interest in Ben because he spilled her secret, but in the end she leaves the wedding. She's sad that he kissed the ex, but of course the whole family's like, well, chase after her, of course. So he runs, well, actually jumps in the ocean, gets rescued by a helicopter, and then gets taken to the Sydney Opera House to like chase her down there, and that is where they have their final confession of love and kiss, and the movie ends. That's generally the plot. There's a lot of fun characters within the family and friends, and that was actually a highlight of the movie. Honestly, the most like defined characters were the most interesting. Like the roommate character, I'm forgetting the character's name, but he's played by a guy who goes by Gata as his stage name. Gata? I don't know. He's Pete. Okay, Pete was one of the most interesting characters because he was just like this really chill guy, like energy vibe, like perceptive. He was a really funny duo with the guy playing his dad, and I could tell they were some parallel to like a Shakespeare version of like Bert and Ernie, or no. Who are the commentators? I don't know, girl. I'm getting all my references all over the place. But anyway, that brings me to a weakness of the movie, and that is like, honestly, this was the main weakness. Our main protagonist had very little specific personality traits. And I know it's a rom-com, so it's about the relationships. It's not about one protagonist's character development. But I think I just had this missing thing for me with especially B, the Sydney Sweeney's character. She, at the beginning of the movie, tells Ben like, oh, I really want to be a lawyer, but I'm in law school. And he's like, well, maybe you will, maybe you won't, whatever. And then she ends up dropping out, and that's her big secret. In the movie, we never find out what she actually wants to do with her life if it's not law school. And I feel like the movie needed just an extra trait for her. Like, what happened to, big time magazine editor wanting to open up a bakery with your grandma's recipes, or wanting to like open up an animal rescue. I don't know. I just feel like she as a character needed to have like a passion that was the alternative for the law school. I think it could have been really easy to incorporate, like, what if she's really into photography and wants to be like a editorial photographer, because, they're in this picturesque location of Sydney, Australia. At the end, she talks about she loves to people watch at the Sydney Opera House and watch the people be in love and stuff. It would have been really easy to like give the character a camera and she's like people watching, like taking photos of people. I don't know. I feel like they could have given her just something, because even the guy, Ben, he had finance. Like, he's a finance guy. And it's like, okay, we know what category in society he plays, but she was just a law student, which is a category, but she drops out at the beginning of the movie, so then she has no category. They could have also went the route of like, maybe she dropped out of law school because she was feeling insecure. At the very beginning of the movie, she mentions she is doing an internship and she kind of has an imposter syndrome. It's a super brief line, and it's happening while she like sprays her pants with water and is drying them. So it's like easy to miss. But that's literally the only information we get about her career or passions or anything she's doing, aside from like her relationship to other people. And so it could have been a thing where she dropped out of law school because of imposter syndrome, and then through the journey of the wedding in Australia and the trip and then falling in love, maybe she finds like her confidence back somehow with law, or maybe like a part of law that she's passionate about. Like, she could have like helped out an animal in Australia and been like, I'm gonna fight for animal rights, something like that. I'm assuming the choice they made was just like, this stuff is like extra fluff for the movie that we should cut for time. It could have been something that just got cut out because it wasn't like compelling enough, or it slowed the movie down, because it was a really fast-paced movie. But I don't know, I think they could have added something, just one extra thing to like help us understand who she is and who she wants to be. Maybe also they were trying to get at that the lesson is like that she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. But like, I feel like to make a satisfying end to a lighthearted movie, you should tie up the loose ends, and maybe she knows a direction by the end of the movie. There's nothing, and it left B as a character feeling like kind of not fully fleshed out, not fully human. It's like they stripped her down of any personality trait so that like any woman can put herself in her shoes. Most female protagonists of romances are kind of a blank slate like this. Like, think of like Bella from Twilight, But I don't know, I think when you give a character a passion, people can apply that to their own lives and their own passions. Like, maybe I don't have a passion for photography like the character, but I have a passion for making YouTube videos and I can like relate to the concept. I don't know, I just feel like studios and like these big commercial movies like really don't believe in audiences anymore. And I don't know if I blame them, like they think we're dumb as audiences and won't appreciate these details about a character. It's unfortunate because I do feel like people's attention spans are so low these days, and yeah, like maybe the masses don't care about little details. I don't know, it feels like also a disservice to those people that are paying attention and are super fans of rom-coms. I don't know, I just always feel like with commercial movies, we as audiences are underestimated, or like we don't have the attention span to like learn about a character. And to an extent they're right, because at my screening of Anyone But You, like I had a couple right next to us that was like on their phone the whole time, talking the whole time. I was just shocked because just like you're talking at a movie in this economy when movies cost like $30 to go do. This isn't back in the day when like a ticket is $7. I'm just like, why not just sit at home then? It's very, very confusing to me, and it was sad to see because I want to say like, no, audiences are smarter. We deserve more details, more fleshed out characters. But then I have people next to me like that, and I'm like, oh, these decisions were made with people like them in mind, that their attention isn't being held by the slow parts of the movie. The audiences that need constant action, need little detail, need to be spoon-fed information in like a chaotic scene. It's disappointing that like that's how it is now, and I don't know, I feel like it's always been that way. There's always like potential rude people at any place you go to, any public place, but I'm just shocked that just like this shit is expensive. Like if I were to talk through the whole thing, I would feel like I just threw away $50 or whatever our combined expense was as a couple. I guess the last thing I want to talk about this movie is the antagonist. Who is the antagonist, you might ask? Sydney Sweeney's bra that was fighting for its life on her back. Costume department, stylist, please give Sydney Sweeney an appropriate bra. She has like the most beautiful chest in Hollywood. Just the bathing suit situation was like atrocious for her. They were trying to do this like almost like cottagecore vibe or something, but like her bra strap in the back was at her neck. I've never seen a bra do that. And like, you know, my bras, you know, pull the strap up, but like, damn, this poor girl is struggling. So yeah, rom-coms don't always have antagonists, and this one didn't have one except for that bra. But yeah, all in all, a great fun time. I definitely want to rewatch it when it comes to streaming. I think the chemistry was good between Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. They did a good job with that part. That was her strongest moments. It was more like her lines towards like the parents or the family that felt a little like wooden. She nailed the physical comedy. Glenn Powell's great at this like enemies to lovers vibe. The cinematography was great. Costumes, aside from the bra situation, were nice. They did insert a lot of like Shakespeare quotes throughout, so like the trailer was clearly ashamed of being a Shakespeare adaptation, but the movie was not, and I'm glad. There were a lot of these little Easter eggs, like putting quotes from Much Ado About Nothing, lines in the movie where like the sister would be like, I feel like we're all characters in a play. And it was kind of these tongue-in-cheek moments that I found really charming, and I appreciated it, like appreciating that it was a Shakespeare adaptation and like not shying away from that. It's great. I recommend it if you're a fan of rom-coms. It's not as bad as the trailer made it look. I would love to hear what you thought of Anyone But You, if you've watched it, or if you plan to watch it. I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos whenever I feel like it about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to keep up with me, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.